They really are. I don't know if you followed soccer. If you're a soccer fan, you need to be with us on our bonus coverage on Monday and our regular coverage on Thursday because we are covering a lot of soccer. That guy is back. Gregg Berhalter, after about 6 months of controversy, has been rehired, given a contract extension. I tend to think, because last week we talked about suddenly Berhalter was interviewing other places because any conversation with Team USA had been stalled. I tend to think that when the story got out that Club America in Mexico and Sparta of Rotterdam in Netherlands, where he had played as a young star, were interviewing him for their coaching job, that forced Matt Crockett, the new general manager of Team USA, to get to the forefront. They got there real quick. He had a 10-hour meeting with Berhalter on the weekend, and they came to an agreement that he would come back for the next 3 years through 2026. So it's great because the players had spoken out in public that this man was the architect of everything. There's a pretty good chemistry relationship. Now, Berhalter admitted that there is, quote, work to be done to solve the problem with Gio Reyna. However, they'll find a way to set this aside, what the Reyna family did to Berhalter that got him removed as coach for about a 6-month period. They'll have to solve it. I do think they'll solve it. Peer pressure. Players in that room will help solve the thing. Here's the cool part. I mean, they blew out Mexico 3-0, not a competitive game at all. It was a really ugly game. 4 red cards, ton of personal fouls. The game was stopped because Mexican fans threw tons of garbage on the field. And then the game was stopped the second time because Mexican fans have a history of uttering gay slurs on the field when their team is losing.
Really?
They ended the game at the 89th minute. They did not let it go into extra time because of what the fans were doing. And the referees under FIFA have a right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible, horrible end. But Team USA totally dominated. Then they came back and they won the second game of the tournament to win the Nations League Cup. And they shut out Team Canada. That was a much more spirited game, and Canada had a bunch of scoring chances. To me, the most exciting part is just what transpired. Gio Reyna played really well. They put him out on the wing as a guy that distributed the ball. The defenses got sucked there to try to defend him. He hit Christian Pulisic. Pulisic banged home a couple goals in the Mexican game. Then they turned around and they used Ricardo Pepi, the 19-year-old. He scored a goal in one of the games. Zendejas got the chance to play right at the end. I mean, Team America, Team USA looks so different now with the firepower they have. It's just not Christian Pulisic by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now suddenly they've got 3 to 4 other young snipers that I think are going to be real difference makers. So everything to me is looking up. We go from the Nations League to the Gold Cup coming up. And when the Gold Cup is completed, then Berhalter in August will actually take control of Team USA. But everybody seems really pleased. I'm pleased because he's the architect of where this thing has come from, and obviously the driver of where we think globally this thing can go. And by the way, speaking of soccer coaches, Mexico just fired the guy they just hired. Diego Coca was a head coach at Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
7 games in, they oust him. Went 3-1, but they weren't competitive at all in the game against Team USA. He just got fired on Monday morning. Also, Mexico's federation is facing a $150,000 fine for the junk that came in out of the stadium from all those fans. He'd already been fined $100,000 prior. Now it looks like that's going to go again. And Mexico is in total disarray. They have fired 8 executives and coaches in the last 11 months, including 2 head coaches. So they are in right now, they are in total disarray. And El Tri, that's the team. That's the only thing that is important to Mexican sports fans is their World Cup soccer team. And they look into total disarray. So we've talked a lot about Berhalter. We talked about the players. We talked about the young guys on the come. Boy, sure looks like they've arrived in this tournament, and now we look forward to what's coming.
Yeah, the future looks great, but just think about where this program was. You know, you roll the clock back 40 years ago, it was just the disgrace. And then when America hosted the World Cup in the early 90s, they showed something there, and little by little they got better. But remember, they took a big dip, and they didn't make the World Cup in 2018.
Yes.
But now they're kind of on the rise again. So this is exciting. I watched parts of the game. I think it was pay-per-view, but I was able to watch it for free on Univision. So I kind of tested out some of my Spanish language.
And that wasn't very good either. I didn't understand anything you're trying to say to me on the phone talking in Spanish, but I did too. I watched Univision because I could identify the players and they would identify the English names of the players. But, the Landon Donovan era really spiked the interest in World Cup soccer. Then they dipped because their players got old and guys retired and then failed to make the World Cup. Then Berhalter drove this thing, put this young roster together, not so much to win in 2023, or what year was it, 2023? But what they're going to build towards in 2026. And they look like they're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, and I think about El Tri in Mexico. There's a lot of national pride at stake. And, for the longest time, I mean, they were the dominant North American team because the United States was so down. Now things are switching. I think Mexico figured this was the one sport they had the up on the United States. And now that table's been turned.
Past tense, I agree. All right, let's go from